My Lords, with unfortunate timing, this debate is taking place 2 days after International Holocaust Remembrance Day. In the 70 years since the liberation of Auschwitz, despite the millions spent on Holocaust education and remembrance, the museums and memorials, the school visits to concentration camps, there is a gap in the memory and the education which needs to be bridged. It is that the desire and the opportunity to murder 6 million people of a different religion, whose presence on his territory the murderer resents, must not arise again. The message Jews took from the Holocaust is that their nationalism is necessary, and it's been a success. Israel is not Saudi Arabia, it is not North Korea, it is not Iran, it is not Pakistan. It is a flourishing and democratic outpost in the desert with an astonishing record, and it is a safe haven, an imperative for existence that can be applied to no other country in the world. Yasser Arafat declared an independent state of Palestine in 1988, and recognition followed from 100 states. The subsequent failure to change anything on the ground demonstrates the truth of the international law on recognition, namely that statehood has to be founded in fact, not in numbers of recognitions. As far as this motion goes, almost every word of it is dubious. There can be no contribution towards a two-state solution, because recognition of Palestine, falsely based, will only make the situation more dangerous. There can be no two-state solution unless Palestine recognizes Israel, which she steadfastly refused to do. There's no statehood attaching to Palestine in international law because it doesn't meet the criteria. A sovereign state of a Muslim Palestine has never existed, not before 1948 and not before 1967. It was Egyptian and Jordanian territory. Ehud Olmert's offer of a state was rejected in 2009. The intention of many of the players in the region has always been the elimination of a Jewish presence in the area, not the establishment of yet one more Muslim state. The problem with Israel is not that it has displaced anyone. The problem, according to its neighbours, is that its population is largely Jewish. The practical result of a premature state of Palestine would simply be to free up the import of arms into the new state, for the takeover of Israel is the aim underlying this move. Why is there no preparation by the Palestinians for statehood? There's no governance structure, no independent administration, no industrialization, no negotiation of trade agreements with its neighbor Israel. The state wouldn't be a state in any recognizable form. Its leaders have declared that the current residents, whose status as refugees defies all logic, will remain defined as refugees. They will not be granted citizenship, nor would the state of Palestine open its doors to the Palestinian diaspora, those Palestinians whose miserable lives in Syria, Egypt, Lebanon, and elsewhere in the region are worse than those in Gaza and the West Bank. So if a state has no citizens and will not grant them citizenship in defiance of international law, and of course it has also declared that it will be a Judenrein state, unlike the 1.8 million Arab residents of Israel who've chosen to stay there, what will the state be for? It will be for a closer jumping off point for the demolition of the State of Israel in pursuance of the alleged right of return. As others have said, Fatah and Hamas want a one-state solution. Why should Israel recognize Palestine if there is no reciprocity, but only a step towards elimination in return? In the climate of extremism that is sweeping Europe, why should a country want to take a step that risks feeding it more? The only purpose is manipulative, to allow Palestinians to pursue claims against Israel at the UN and other international bodies. In the face of what is happening in Europe, what agenda do the proponents serve? Would it not be a good idea to examine the excesses of this position and turn to state building on the ground as an alternative? Israel's antagonists often accuse her of apartheid. In the worst times of genuine apartheid in South Africa, Mandela was planning his future independent country's constitution, educating its leaders, preaching peace and not vengeance, acting as a statement. In the early days of Zionism, before statehood, the Jewish residents of what was to be Israel prepared their governance structure, set up the organs of a state, created universities, made the desert bloom, prepared a legal system, free press, trade unions, hospitals, and charities. None of this is present in the Palestinian leadership. Nothing is readied. It is not a state under international law, but I have no time to describe that. The worst element, of course, is that the residents will not be citizens, but will be regarded as refugees whose aim is to return to a different state, Israel, rather than establishing citizenship in their own state. And the new state will be wholly dependent on international funds. To recognise it now by the General Assembly, for example, would simply send the message to every other non-state entity in the world, such as the Basque Country, Northern Cyprus, the Kurds, my lords, even Scotland, to bypass normal laws and claim to be a state. A two-state solution by all means, if the Palestinians will create a homeland, accept the refugees, lay down their arms, and be a country of peace.